everybody, it's Amy, also known as Aussie Stitcher in Texas, here for my 5th Flosstube. Thank you to everybody who has liked and subscribed and been watching my videos. I really do appreciate it. It is October 31st, so happy Halloween for everybody. This video may go up today, it may go up tomorrow. I do have some Halloween plans this evening, so we'll see how time goes. So like I said, this is my 5th Flosstube. I've been loving doing this so far. Again, I really appreciate everybody who takes the time to watch my videos. And let's get into it. I worked on 5 projects this week, which I'm very impressed with myself, if I do say so. First off, I worked on one of my whip goes, which is a Heaven and Earth Designs. It is Faces of Faery 201, or the Black Swan, depending on what you want to call it, by Jasmine, Becket, Griffith. I had a goal of 3,000 stitches for this month. Now I should say for my Hades and my other whip goes, nothing else has a goal of 3,000 stitches in a month. I'm just doing it on my Hade because I really want to try and get this done, and giving myself that 3,000 helps me plow through quite big chunks at a time. So for this, I did a little over, so 3,030 stitches for the month, and this is where I'm at. So that little bauble with the black swan in there is really coming along, and it is amazing how this is charted to look like glass and reflections and things like that. I also completed her eye, one of her eyes, and I am trying to, when I first started this, I wasn't really doing the blocks because it wasn't always very defined. There might have been 1 or 2 stitches outside the block, and I didn't want to park a thread for 1 or 2 stitches. I just thought I'll do those stitches, make my life easier. That got a little bit out of control, as you can see, especially around her skin on her face. It really just got out of control. So where I can, I am trying to get the blocks back because it is helping me figure out where I am and where I'm at and things like that. But I also don't want to do the hard blocks just in case there is a time where I put this in timeout for a little while and it sits, and then I don't want people to be able to see a line from when I had the line of, you know, where the 10 block ended, and then maybe a couple months later I pick it up. I'm hoping that really doesn't happen. I really do want to keep this in my rotation, and what I'm going to try to do, I've still got it on my whip go board once more, which will actually be for December, since we know what the November calls were, so we know what's left for December. So I'll put another 3,000 in hopefully by the end of the year and really define things out. But I think I'm over halfway done. But this is the full width and then the full length. So I have an idea of how big she is, which isn't too big. I did this on, this is 32 count, easy grid, easy guide, one of those. I can't remember where it's called. I got it from 123 Stitch, and I am doing it 2/2. For fun facts, when I first started it, I tried 1/1. I tried 2/110 stitch. So I did a couple kind of tests, just that first kind of 100 block, that 10 by 10. And then just decided I just wanted to do the 2/2. So if it takes me longer, it takes me longer, but the coverage is amazing. All DMC. I love this crown. This crown had so much confetti in it. So has this little bauble down here, so much confetti. Some of it, which to me doesn't necessarily make sense. I do have a spot down here. I'll bring it in, I don't know if you can see it, where there's just kind of like one random tan amongst greens. So I have kind of, thank God for Pattern Keeper, because I can see what colors are coming up where. So I have kind of been changing that up. If I feel like the color is just too random for the colors around it, I'm just choosing one of the colors that I've got on the thread, or one that's next to it or above or whatever. So that is what I'm doing there. I just think it's a little weird to have one random tan amongst 50,000+ stitches, or however much is in this thing. So that was my first whip go goal that I did complete. And I will throw up a picture at some point of where you saw it last time if I have it. Next up, I have another full coverage, but a much simpler full coverage than a Haid. It is Visit Lothlorien by Country Magic Stitch. I picked this up off their website. Very simple, pattern keeper compatible, and my goal for this one was 1,000 stitches. I ended up doing about 1,500, so just a little bit over. I'll put up a picture here where you saw it last time, and here is where we are at now. So this is Visit Lothlorien from Lord of the Rings. And as you can see, I'm starting to get some of the little tree houses in, and you can kind of see like someone's home. Really loving this. It is it's a great pattern to follow, lots of block color. So, you get a lot of progress kind of really quickly because you're not having to change your needle out every 2.5 stitches, which sometimes I just need. I just need to have something simple that I can just feel like I'm powering through. And this was a nice little bit of relief after my Haid, which does have a lot of color changes. This was just, I could thread up a few needles and just like power through, get a bunch of stitches done. So this was, this probably only took me a weekend, I think, if memory serves. Next up, I worked on my Dark Queen of the Earth by Autumn Lane Stitchery. Part 2 came out on the 1st, and part 3 will come out tomorrow. So I am currently mostly caught up. As of tomorrow, I will not be caught up. So let me just get this. I'll put up a picture of where you saw it last time on whichever side it appears. And here is part 2. So the only thing I have not done yet is the back stitch that's in here that make these look like wings. Or Aaron's a genius. It is ridiculous how good this looks with the back stitch in, and how these look like they're like overlaying from each other. It's just absolutely amazing. The reason I haven't put the back stitch in just yet is because I want to couch it, I think is the terminology. I saw somebody on the Dark Queen of the Earth Facebook group who had done it, and I thought it looked amazing. But because you're taking the thread kind of far, I didn't want to do it just yet because once it's in the Q-snap, I didn't want it to potentially get messed up, even though I do put felt between like the fabric and the snap piece. I didn't want to have it done looking great and then it get messed up and have to do it again. So I'm just going to leave that until probably the end, or at least when we know enough of the design that I know I'm not going to have to put the Q-snap over those pieces, because this is, smack bang in the middle. This is on a Under the Sea Fabrics in the shade Nightshade. It is a 32 count linen. I think I've said this before, but I'm not a huge fan of linen. I just don't like the slubs and the fact that it's not the easiest thing to iron, because I don't want to put anything on it, any, spray things or water, or just, steam gently. So it just frustrates me a little bit, but linen dyes so much better than anything else. When this came out and Leslie put up the pictures of linen, Lugana, Jobelan, and Ada, I thought the Jobelan and the Lugana, which is where I would normally go, was just a little too muted for what I wanted and what kind of the sneak peeks they had given us of the pattern. So I went with the linen. I did not go with the opalescent. I'm kind of regretting that now, but just because I've never worked on an opalescent and I would like to, but it's still absolutely amazing. We do have a little bit of sparkle. I don't know if you can see that in the yellow color there. That's a petite treasure braid. But this is great. Can't wait for the next piece to come out tomorrow. One thing I like about the stitch alongs that Aaron and Cassandra do is it's like, where do you go next? We just don't know. When you purchase the pattern, you get kind of like a shadow effect of what it's going to look like. So you can kind of see certain features. But I mean, are we going to go up and get a torso? Are we going to get legs? Is he going to go completely random and do something at the side? I just don't know. It's very exciting and I love it. So that next piece will come out tomorrow, and it's a day in the office. So I'll have to wait patiently until I get home to start working on that. Next up, because I had completed some of my goals to get a bingo, I gave myself a new start. And this is a pattern I had purchased a while ago. It is Autumn by the Cricket Collection. I'll throw up a cover shot of it. I don't have the pattern with me at the moment, but I gave myself a new start, and this is on a 28 count Monaco that I dyed myself. And I have done so the U and the M of Autumn. I am using the called for here. I did look at they give you the option. So there are two colors that are Gast or a fancy floss essentially. I didn't want to use fancy floss. I'm not a huge user of fancy flosses. I have nothing against them. It's just a rabbit hole I'm trying not to put myself into. I know what I'm like, and if I start using fancy floss, I'll only ever want to use fancy floss, and that can get very expensive, whereas DMC, you know, at 50 cents a skein or whatever, is much more affordable. So I did change out those fancy flosses for the DMC colors that they recommend instead. And then I just hand dyed this myself with some RIT dye. And then the only other change I made was in the pumpkin's hat, I used Etoile, which you can not really see, but that's Etoile, whereas the bat's wings are just normal DMC 310. So this is nice and easy. Again, very blocky. I have to say I'm very proud of myself with this dye color. I was really worried it wasn't gonna work. It's not as modeled as you can see on the camera. The camera picks up the modeling and kind of makes it a lot more stark, but it's not as stark, it's more muted. I'm so impressed with this that I do have another piece that I want to dye for the Nutcracker Parade from the Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery. So I picked up some RIT dye on the weekend, and I will give that a dye probably next weekend. I need a drink. Hydrate, people, if you're not already. And then finally, I pulled out my Twisted Rainbow Sampler by Northern Expression Needlework. So I am doing this one color at a time, which does mean I have to move the Q-snap a little bit. I will throw up a photo of where you saw it last time. So I'm currently in the greens. Oh, this is such a cumbersome piece of fabric. I was trying to keep it folded, but it's not gonna work. So this is where I'm at. So I did this darker green color here. I'm loving doing this color by color. It is absolutely stunning. I can't wait to get, which is coming up, into the blues and the pinks and the purples, just because I like those colors personally. But this is just absolutely amazing. The fade, and this is also Pattern Keeper compatible. This is just a 28 count black Witchold, Lugano or Gerbilin, I can't remember which. And just with the DMC, I'm not doing the fancy floss, just DMC. And this is just the normal cross stitch version. I did originally purchase the one with the specialty stitches, and I started, and I am just not ready for specialty stitches. So I reached out to the designer and just asked if, well, I'd actually reached out to, to say that I was going to purchase just the cross stitch version, but I'd already done a little bit, the first kind of 1 and a bit colors. So I think it's this dark red, and then up to like the antenna was cross stitch. And then this band is where it started to become specialty stitches, cross stitch, specialty stitches, etc. So I'd already done the butterfly here. And I'd reached out to her to just ask the question like, hey, in the regular just cross stitch pattern, is the butterfly still exactly the same? Because I didn't want to have to frog it and then realize I didn't need to frog it, or if I did need to frog it, I wanted to prepare myself. So she was actually kind enough to send me just the cross stitch pattern. I didn't have to repurchase it. So I was really grateful for that. Saved myself a little money. And then if I do ever, start to learn specialty stitches, maybe I'll give that one a go and gift this one or gift that one to somebody else, because it is really a stunning piece. And specialty stitches I know is something that I'm going to have to learn how to do, because I really would like to do a chatelaine one day, particularly Evening in the Park. That is the one that really calls to me. I first saw that at Teresa Little Stitcher here on YouTube. She has Evening in the Park and has been working on Evening in the Park for many, many years. But I just think it's beautiful. The colors and the swans and the lanterns, all those trees, which I know Teresa has said has been like kind of a bane of her existence. So I will take advice from her to do those trees gradually, you know, not just work on all of one, you know, work from the center and then work your way out, which is what I think it's kind of intended to do with a chatelaine. But that then means you're ending up doing, because you do things 4 times, you know, it's the way it works out. But you would then do the trees all at once. Whereas if you kind of go up, you can do the trees on the top section, and then you do a little bit more over here, and then you start to work your way out. You do your trees over here, a little way out. So you kind of break up doing the trees, has been the advice that has been given, is break up doing those trees, because they can be, I think it's more the backstitch of like the branches that make people just a little bit insane with it. So we shall do that. I will break that up. Now for haul, I only have a little bit of haul this month. I have my fabric of the month, excuse the crinkle crinkle, from Be Stitch Me. It came in the mail on Saturday. So I get the 40 count Verdol, and I chose the fabric of the month that is either or. So I either get a neutral or I either get a colorful one. Last month was my first month and I got a neutral, and today I've got more of a colorful one. So this is called Whimsical. Wait, let me make sure I got that right. Yes, Whimsical. So 40 count Verdol, starting to build up my 40 count stash. And I think that's beautiful. It's kind of like a periwinkle. I could totally have that wrong. I'm not the best at remembering the names of colors, but that's what it reminds me of. So that's what I'm going to call it. But just stunning fabrics. I wish I had the skill to dye fabrics the way they do. But alas, I will just handle what I have. And then I purchased 3 patterns off of Etsy from Stitchery. The first off I purchased is Take Life with a pinch of salt, a wedge of lime, and a shot of tequila. So there's that one. I'm actually going to do that for a friend of mine. I'm going to give that to her for her birthday. And then the next one is Be So Awesome, People Think You're a Myth, and it is a narwhal. So cute. I think I'm going to take that at work to motivate me on long days. Ooh. And then the other one I got is Everything is Better with a Little Magic. This one. And I got, there's 2 versions of this, one that's on a navy fabric and one that is on a white fabric. So there's just a couple of color changes it looks like that she made to make certain things pop more on navy versus on a white fabric. So I purchased those 3 patterns. Like I said, I'm going to work on tequila. I think I will start that one next month because my friend's birthday is in February, at the end of February. So I want to try and get that all stitched up and FFO'd. So I'm furiously going to be working on that. So that is me. I do have some good news for me and for my family anyway. I booked tickets to fly back to Australia for Christmas. So it is, I fly out from here on Christmas Eve, get there Christmas Day. Not ideal to arrive Christmas Day, but flights are ridiculously and unnecessarily expensive. And it was a $5 difference to try and fly in a day earlier. And with what I'm already paying, that made a big difference. So I am flying in to see them. I have a nice, good stint in seeing all my family. It has been about 5 years or so since I was back in Australia. So it's been some time and my family's very much looking forward to it. My nieces are looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing them. I will be smuggling in a giant suitcase full of chocolate and treats for all my nieces and family because they love things there. But then in return, I'll be smuggling a bunch of things from Australia back here of chocolate from my friends here. And there's the things that I like that you can't buy in this country. Not a lot of you will agree, or some of you might, but Vegemite as an example. I love Vegemite. It is something I do think you definitely need to grow up with. It is not something that I think you can come to later in life. It's a very odd spread, but it is delicious in the right context. I will say, it's not peanut butter. You don't put it on your toast or your English muffin or whatever you're putting it on like you would peanut butter. It's very important to get the Vegemite to butter ratio correct. It's a light dusting. So any advice if you do want to try Vegemite, do that. Butter to Vegemite ratio is very important. Unless you're my father, who does spread it on like peanut butter, which is just a little too much for me. Well, thank you everybody for watching. I'd really appreciate it if you could like, and if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to this video. I post about once a month. It may be over that Christmas break a little bit disjointed because I will be traveling in Australia at that time, but I will try and get something out probably before I leave and then after I come back in mid-January. So thanks everybody. Have a good day. Have a good Halloween. Bye.